Okay, so you're looking to plan a safe trip and avoid any restrictions. So let me show you a step-by-step guide to get you travelling as soon as possible. Woo! So back in early November, I left the UK 3 days before it went into entire lockdown. Fast forward to the present and I've been in Portugal now for almost 2 months, vlogging every day, and it's been amazing. But I decided recently that it's time that I should probably move on. So over the last few days I began searching and researching where to go from here, and suddenly I had a thought. I should really make a video on how to do this because it's not quite as easy as it used to be. Anyway, this is that video. Now we all want to go back to somewhat normality, hopping on and off flights whenever we had the money or whenever we had some time off work. But the reality is though that this year has made it virtually impossible even to leave our house just for some toilet roll, let alone our country to enjoy some sun and local wine. And on top of all of this, there's 1,000,001 worries that we all have about the virus that would make us hesitant about getting on a flight anytime soon. So I'm about to share with you what I believe is a solid step-by-step guide that will not only get you planning your next trip, but also help keep you and everyone else safe. So let's talk about step one. Destination. Back in the old days, we used to have dreams about certain locations that we'd love to travel to, and so we'd have a little look online, and before you could say you were jetting off on another adventure. The sad reality is though, things have changed, and not only is it more difficult to do this, the locations you had in mind may no longer be possible. Now if you have the patience of a saint, then you'll simply wait it out until you can go to your chosen locations, but my guess is, given the fact that you clicked on this video, that you're like me, and me and you, we're impatient people. We need to be fueling our travel bug, otherwise we will lose our mind. And so because of this, we have to accept the fact that we cannot always go to our preferred destination. But this isn't all bad. There's a whole world out there to be explored, so I want you to use this as a positive. Use it as an opportunity to maybe explore places that you wouldn't normally if everything was normal. With that being said, it's now time to have a look to see where we can go. Now it's worth mentioning at this point that the rules and regulations are changing every single day, so don't come crying to me if you book a trip and then it gets cancelled. My advice is to book your trip as late as you possibly can. Spontaneous, I think they call it. Okay, so let me show you how you can decide your destination. Shar,
yeah.
You do me a favour, just pick 3 destinations in the world that you'd like to travel to.
Bali, Italy,
Yeah.
and Jamaica.
Bali, Italy, Jamaica. Okay, we were supposed to travel to Bali back in September. It got cancelled because of COVID, so to avoid depressing thoughts, I'm going to start with Italy because that's European travel. So if you go into your browser and type in reopen.europa.eu and you'll be directed to this site, you will scroll down and simply select the country you wish. In this case, it's Italy. Click go and it will bring up a map of Europe, which will be colour coded as you can see, but all the really important information that you want is on the right hand side. Now I'm not going to go into every single aspect of this site, I'm just showing you what you should be using when looking to travel to European countries. As you can see, there's a lot of information on here, and the best bit for me is that it's updated every single day. You can easily flick between tabs to find out everything you need to know, from general measures to who is allowed to enter the country. This is every single detail of every European country that you could ever want. But what about the other 2 places that Shar mentioned, which was Bali and Jamaica? So let's quickly have a look at them. So we're going to go into our browser and we're going to type in kayak travel restrictions. It's quite similar to Reopen EU, as you can see, but instead of just Europe, they've got the whole world. And again, it's colour coded. Right, let's find Jamaica. Let's test my geography. So Jamaica's down here, I believe. There we go. All travellers arriving in Jamaica may be tested for COVID-19. So it says may be tested. Jamaica has reopened its borders to international travellers. So there you go. Jamaica is literally saying that they are open to international tourists. But like I said, these rules are changing all the time, so it's just worth keeping an eye on it. Let's go and find Bali, which is in Indonesia, and we click on that. Indonesia, entry restrictions. Indonesia has restricted the entry of all travellers who are not in Indonesian. Basically, it's not open. But all the information you need is on these sites. Now, every single country in the world has their own government, and therefore their own rules. But just like in historical times, before COVID, they do not give a single fuck who leaves the country. Unless you're a criminal and you're trying to evade the law, they don't care. All they care about is who is coming and where they're coming from. So it might take a while, but you've decided finally upon your chosen destination. And this is exciting because we're just starting to tickle those travel taste buds again. So it means we're ready for step 2. Isolation rules. Now again, the olden days of traveling meant that at this point, we'd start to look at maybe flights and accommodation. But the new way, unfortunately, means we have to have a more concrete plan. And unfortunately, at this point, it means that we have to check, double check, and even triple check the isolation rules of your chosen destination. Because we have to return home at some point, right? right? Sure? No, but for the most part, you will have to return home and return back to work. So my advice at this point is to check what others are saying about your chosen destination. It's almost like you're about to go on a date with someone for the first time, but before you go, you want to do a bit of research. So you ask maybe people that know that person what their thoughts are. For example, if you were to come and visit me right now over here in Portugal, we'd have a great time. There would be no reason for you to isolate when you got here, but once you decided to go home, you would have to isolate for 14 days. No one wants to do that. Even visiting me isn't probably worth it. So we have to pick a destination that allows us to evade the isolation process. So it's worth going back onto the websites that I mentioned and just find out what their rules are when you arrive from your chosen destination, and just make sure that you don't have to isolate. Step 3. A good time. Just escaping your hometown may be enough for some people, but for others, they demand a good time. And why shouldn't they? They deserve it. They've earned it. You've earned it. But what is a good time? Now, obviously, everyone has a different idea of what is considered a good time. But that's why it's super important that you do your research on your chosen destination to make sure that you can do the things that you would like to do. You need to know your destination inside and out before you get there. Where you can go, where you can't, what's open, what's not, what you can do, what you can't, and even what time you've got to be in the house. And the easiest way to do this is, again, go back onto the government website. You'll find all the rules and listings and what's allowed and what's not on there. And of course, use the additional websites that I showed you when you were picking your destination. They should have some information on there on what's allowed and what's not too. Step 4. Flights. Now we're starting to get excited. Our once idea is a few clicks away from becoming a reality. But before we talk about the actual flight, let's discuss booking. Before I was an avid traveller, I used to use the website Skyscanner. But now I lean more towards Hotels Combined. Both are comparison websites and they will do their best to get you the best deal. But so far, since looking at flights daily for the last couple of months, Hotels Combined has always come out on top. And some of the deals out there at the moment are crazy because no one's travelling. For example, we're thinking about travelling from Portugal over to Italy for Christmas and New Year. Now we're looking at flights from Porto to Rome, and if I just show you Hotels Combined, the cheapest flight right now, if we were to travel on the 21st, is $5. That's almost cheaper than a coffee from Starbucks. So once you decide on your potential destination, have a little look on Hotels Combined. You'll be surprised at the deal that you can get on your flight. Click the link in the description below. Not to mention that if you do book through that link, I get some money too. So it's a win-win. Now I mentioned at the start of this video that we want to remain safe. The last thing we want to do is get infected at the airport or on the plane before we reach your chosen destination. So not only should you look to get the best deal, but you should also look to see what precautions these airlines are taking. And also you want to be super clear on the rules put in place from the airport and the airlines that you're booking. But again, I'll leave that research up to you. I'm just giving you advice on what you should look at before you book. In my experience though, flying was good. I wasn't too worried about it, but Shar was. And to be honest with you, the airport itself was set up as socially distant as you can imagine. The flight was too. There was no one sat in the middle seat, and I felt comfortable throughout the duration of the flight. But truth be told, these airlines, they can't afford to take any chances with this sort of thing. So their interest is always to look after you, the passenger, the customer. One thing's for certain though, you will have to wear a mask throughout the whole duration of your flight, and expect your temperature to be read pretty much as soon as you land. Some airlines may expect you to take a test 72 hours before you fly and prove that you don't have COVID-19. Again, this is subject to airline and airport, so do your research before you book. Step 5. Accommodation. Right, we're nearly there. This is the last step. You found your destination. You've triple checked the restrictions. You've got your flights lined up through Hotels Combined. And you're pretty certain that once you get there, you're going to have a good time. Because the last thing you want to do is get there and have to spend all day in your hotel or apartment. Hotel or apartment, you ask? Great question. Now, since COVID began, I haven't stayed in a hotel. That's not because I don't want to. It's just that I've opted to stay in Airbnbs for a longer duration. Although, since being away, I have spoke to some people who have stayed in hotels, and I've heard very great things. Hotels, just like the airports and airlines, along with all the other businesses in the world, they're doing their utmost to protect you, the customer, stay safe and enjoy your stay. Now, I'm not about to sit here and try and convince you to feel safe staying in a hotel. That's really up to you. But if you do feel safe enough and comfortable enough to be booking a hotel at this time, then once again, check Hotels Combined, link in the description. Honestly, you will be blown away with some of the deals that you can get right now. But let's just say you're like me and you want something maybe either a long stay or something on your own. You might opt for an Airbnb, another great choice. This decision really lies with you, but once again, I can't stress enough that these businesses and these homeowners, they're all doing their utmost to keep everything clean and make places to stay as safe as possible. And not to mention, I actually believe right now is a great time, if you can, to get away. Because the deals, like I said, are phenomenal. And that's it, that's all. I wish you the best of luck with your trip. One final thing I will say is though, wherever you decide to go is please remember just to respect the locals. I promise you traveling right now isn't anything like it used to be. There's little to no tourists anywhere. And these people, just like you, have been locked away as well. And they might not have the same luxuries to travel like you have. So when you arrive in your destination, wear your fucking mask. Be respectful of the rules and regulations put in place to protect the safety of not only the locals but also the people travelling there. That way we can all get back to normality as soon as possible. Subscribe if you like this video, share it with someone who might find it useful too, and remember to book your flights and accommodation through Hotels Combined in the link in the description below. And that's it. Safe travels, much love.